Okay, well, I just realized that by God's justice and mercy, um, it's I I'm remembering that it is not God's will for visionaries to be spreading their awareness to the world to in order to gain fame for their evangelistic crusade, um, without first going through the clergy. Very oftentimes visionaries do this, but they really are supposed to get the clearing from the clergy. So this is the responsibility of the clergy first, and therefore the visionaries submit their stories to the clergy, and then the clergy in time make it known. However, under these extenuating circumstances of history today, I have had the audacity to come onto YouTube to make these visions known. I have, however, in any case, been approved um, by clergy high up on the ladder um, of clout, and it didn't take much to convince them either, because what I was telling them does not contradict the faith of Jesus Christ and His Holy Church. So that would be Father Pius of Fatima Shrine, who died in Rome. I believe he probably died in the Vatican. And he had been sent to Japan, I think probably to work with the Akita visionary of the Blessed Mother. So he had given his, you might want to say, his unofficial approval. He used to collect journals of mine, and then after he died, I had them burned um, because I wanted to start over in the more modern sense with the understanding that I have today of where I've been and how I've suffered in my life and the wisdom that I have acquired since. At any rate, so his name was Father Pius, and he approved of the vision where I had been plunged into hellfire because the office of the Pope is the one that repelled my soul to land me there. But he said that this happened to me so that I could bear testimony, not because I'm especially sinful, because he said that I am no more sinful than any other, than many others. And he said I was chosen for this, for a mission. And he says, the mission is not yet. It won't be until after we have studied your case and you go home to the Lord. But that left a bad taste in my mouth because he wasn't acting in a ministering way to me by and large, and I was stranded in my cave. And he rarely ever stopped over to visit me in my dire situation, and all he did was tell me to write in my journals, and I gave them to him, and he kept them in a safe and then burned them. Well, he didn't burn them. The shrine burned them after he had passed away. At any rate, so yeah, he died of cancer in the Vatican. And then years and years and years later, another priest, whose name I will not identify, he said he accepted the vision of the cross which followed the vision of Our Lady, the Blessed Virgin, and he understood the vision of Our Lady, the Blessed Virgin, to be the power of suggestion, but a little bit more than that. He also thought of it as the lifting of the veil, so that it wasn't just psychological, but more or less the lifting of the veil, that she's always with us, and we just are able to see her sometimes more than other times. And so he also was more enamored of the appearance of the cross moonbeam, which was more than a moonbeam. It was like a painted white, thick paint. And it must have been made of a special kind of clouds. They were just straight streams of painted moonbeam, which were all illuminated, making the sign of the cross over a small host of a moon back in 1995. So I'm thinking, I'm remembering that as being early October. It could have been early November, that Ivan Dragicevich accompanied Father Yozo and attended Mass there in Lowell Auditorium. And so, yes, Father R approved of the cross, and he thought that was very significant, and that the message to me was to keep my eyes upon the cross. And I got the implication from him, I got the feeling from him that he was understanding I was about to suffer, some type of spiritual chastisement, as it were, along the way of the cross. And I had, as I explained, with my Carmelite habit upon my head. I think that's the video where I explained that. And then the Monsignor, 3 years afterward, approved of the eclipse spirituality, where my soul had been pulled through the outer space, and he is the first one, I believe, who finally acknowledged that these things do happen. Prior to his acknowledgement, Catherine Ann Clark had also had this in common with me. I had experienced this in 1982, and then Catherine Ann Clark underwent some private revelations much thereafter, and probably in the 90s. And, so coming across her was confirmation that I'm not the only one. Of course, I couldn't be the only one, because there were thousands of souls out there in the firmament that is being used for spiritual reasons, while we were waiting for something better, drawing close to the throne of God. And I had approached the light to the left of the lunar eclipse before it turned me away, and I landed back into my body on Earth. And I awoke, and I saw with the naked eye the same lunar eclipse, and I watched it melt into a crescent of fire in a matter of seconds. So Catherine Ann Clark also described a man in purgatory who was impressed by God in this way, and that this was his the Lord's purgatorial style for this particular man. And you can read about that in the Mist of Mercy. There were Protestants also who have had this experience, and you can read about that in the video movie called Escape from Hell. So other people have had these kinds of experiences. 7 months afterward is when I was plunged into hellfire. So it didn't happen all in one trip, as in the movie Escape from Hell. And also the Monsignor approved of that aspect of my private revelation, which was the papal authority and my escape from hell, via the means of wearing the brown scapular Mount Carmel. So then he tried to talk to me about Our Lady of Mount Carmel and this devotion, its simplicity, comparing it with the blood over the doorposts, and the tenderness of this devotion to Our Lady. And that's when I compared her also with Elijah the prophet on Mount Carmel, and his deeds there to expose the prophets of Baal, which is especially relevant for this day and age. And so it's understandable in that regard. And so he said that even if we didn't want to wear the brown scapular of Our Lady of Mount Carmel, that we should recall these Bible stories and lessons. Okay, so that is about it for right now.